Good morning and happy Valentine's. It's kind of raining outside, isn't it? How many's having a good day so far? Anybody? All right, listen, I was at just getting ready for this message. Hey, I want to show this up here real quick. Look who I caught buying flowers at Walmart. Can you believe it? Throw that picture up there. Where's it at? What? Hey, hey, I don't know what's wrong with that picture. Something's not right. I'll let you figure that out later. We had a great date night dinner for the pastors in our community this past week. And so we're very, very thankful for being able to do that and for all those who came. And I think they got a little picture up here. They want to show of some of us guys. Poor Stephen was by himself, so he was struggling that night, right? So. But anyway, we had a great time, and we're so thankful. I wonder, is anybody here? Did anybody firsthand? I got a little gift for it. Did anybody in here get married on Valentine's Day? Anybody? Do I see a hand somewhere? No. Okay. Did anybody get engaged on Valentine's? Oh wow. Okay. Well. Nothing. Man, I was hoping somebody got engaged or got married. I want to give you a gift. My goodness, all right? I tell you what, I'll find something else and later on in the day. I'll find a way to give it away to somebody, all right? But anyway, glad to have you here this morning. I want to share with you guys my prayer that God gave me for 2021. And it's a scripture, and I didn't set out. I hear people say all the time, you know, they get it early. I don't necessarily get it that way. I get it in process, all right? And so I'm kind of hard-headed sometimes, but I just found myself saying and sharing and encouraging this scripture, and man, God began to just let this boil inside of me. But it's in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 4, and it says this: my message and my preaching were not with wise and persuasive words, but with demonstration of the Spirit's power. And that's been my prayer this year so far is, God, let me walk in your power. I want to be able to demonstrate your power. And what power? To demonstrate the power of God's love, the power of God's joy, the power of God's peace, His forbearance, His kindness, His goodness, His faithfulness, His gentleness, and self-control. Oh God, I want to walk in your power. And man, if we've ever been in a time where we need the church, the body of Christ, men and women who name the name of Jesus to walk in the power of the Spirit, we are in that season, all right? Today is the day. In Acts chapter 1, verse 4, I'm going to read this to you. It says this, I'm going to show you verse 8, but it says, on the occasion while Jesus was eating with them, He gave them this command: do not leave Jerusalem, but wait for the gift that my Father promised, which you have heard me speak about. He says, for John baptized with water, but in a few days you will be baptized with the Holy Spirit. And then they gathered around him and asked him, Lord, are you at this time going to restore the kingdom of Israel? And he said to them, it's not for you to know the times or the dates the Father has set in His own authority. But I like verse 8. But you will receive power. You are going to receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in Judea and in Samaria and into the ends or uttermost parts of the earth. I don't know if you know this or not. We live in a very blessed country, but we are in the uttermost parts of the earth considered when you compare us to Jerusalem, all right? But God's promise was that He would give us power. Power to what? To demonstrate His Spirit. In 1 Peter it says this, beloved, think it not strange, don't concerning the fiery trial, which is to try you as though some strange thing has happened unto you. But rejoice inasmuch that you are partakers with Christ's sufferings, that when His glory shall be revealed, when His glory shall be revealed, you may also be glad with exceeding joy. Sometimes I would say this, there's moments in my life that I have self-inflicted pain. You ever did that? I'm hobbling today a little bit because let me just tell y'all, pickleball is an old man's sport, but it's dangerous, okay? Man, I pulled my calf muscle. Can you believe it? I am bruised from here all the way up. And all I did was just take off to go after a ball. And I thought somebody hit me with a paddle. That's what it felt like. And I hit the ground. And when I did, I rolled over. I was about to fight. Now, y'all pray for me because I know that's not the right attitude. I thought, who in the world is going to come in here and hit me with a paddle? That dummy's about to get rocked, right? And when I rolled over, there was no one even close. There wasn't. I realized it was just me, failing me. But I've inflicted pain on myself. But there's been some things in life that hurt more than you can imagine. And I had nothing to do with it. It just happened to me. There are trials that come your way sometimes that you cannot avoid. And you have to make a decision that, hey, I will rejoice in this. Woo. Jesus was bruised. He was beaten. He was lied to, lied on, betrayed, mocked. They stripped him of his clothes. They laughed at him. They taunted him. They gambled for his robe while he hung on a tree, a cursed cross, right? With nails driven in his hands and in his feet. And as an innocent man, he carried the cross for you and me. And then the Bible says this, like a lamb led to the slaughter. He never murmured, he never complained, he never said a word, but simply did what he was called to do. And then like Abraham had placed Isaac on the altar, except when it came time to kill Isaac, God intervened and said, no, I'll know now you'll withhold nothing from me. He saved Isaac and provided a way. And just like Abraham had laid Isaac on the altar, now the Father had laid his son Jesus on the cross. He was the only one who could stop it. And he was the one who knew the price that was being paid for your and my sins and the sins of the world. And in that moment, Jesus was forsaken by his Father and left to finish what had been started. And Jesus confirmed to those who were watching in both the earthly and heavenly realms that no one was coming to save him from the cross, that no angels were on their way to take him down. And in that moment of loneliness, he cried out, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, my God, why have you left me? Have you ever felt that way? Matthew 27, verse 46, it says, about the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, that is, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why have you left me alone? Why? This morning, why do I feel alone? As we're in the middle of Valentine's, the holidays and days like today are absolutely some of the best and worst days, right? Because for those who have someone to love and those who feel like they have someone to give themselves to, it's an amazing day. But for the heartbroken among us, it's just one more reminder that someone is missing, that something is gone, and that a relationship that once was there is not there anymore. And when the heart wakes up in the morning full of love and desire to express itself on someone, but is told, no, that is over. There's nothing more painful. The pain of being alone. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. I lost my grandpa on my dad's side when I was about 2 years old. His name was Wilbur Cunningham. Anybody got a Wilbur in your family? Wilbur Cunningham, he died with complications to a hereditary disease called a levopontocerebellar degeneration. I was about 2 years old, so I never knew him. And then in 1991, I was roughly 13 to 14 years of age when my dad sat me down and let me know that against all fears and all prayer and all fasting and all praying, that he too was now suffering from the same disease that my grandpa had. And at that very same time, before him, my Uncle Larry, he was already suffering with a levopontocerebellar degeneration. And then my Uncle Ronnie, who had a twin brother named Lonnie, they were both showing signs of this very same disease. At 13, I didn't understand, why was I going to be left alone? Why would my daddy leave this earth? Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Has anybody anybody in this room ever felt like you were alone? In 1994, I was about 17 years old. I'm guessing 1895, my senior year in high school, my Uncle Larry died due to complications with this disease. In the next 15 years, we would lose 6 more close relatives. One of Larry's son was very close. He was my age. His name was Preston Cunningham, and he died at the age of 35. My Uncle Ronnie was my second dad, and I was the son that he never had. He never got married, and he had the same disease that his dad had. And he was the guy that took me fishing. He taught me how to play a guitar. We had a lot of fun together. But he was the very first funeral that I stood over and I buried and had to make a decision that I either would or would not trust God, right? And so he died in his early 40s, and then his twin brother, Uncle Lonnie, or we called him Uncle Pinky, he died in his 50s, and I buried him. That was another funeral that I did. The big secret that we had at that time was while he was dying, nobody wanted him to know that his only 2 daughters on this life had the same disease and were showing signs. And there is no cure, and without Jesus, there was no hope. And so we buried him without telling him, and it would just be a few years later that I would stand over his oldest daughter's casket, Stacy Cunningham, at the age of 36. She was a year older than me. And then a few months later, I buried her baby sister, who was a year younger than me, at the age of 34. My Aunt Diane, a mother, a wife, was alone to raise her 2 beautiful grandchildren. 12 years ago, or a little over 12 years ago, I lost my dad to olivopontocerebellar degeneration. He died at the age of 50. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Why do I feel alone? This past year, my grandma Cunningham, she was a woman who buried her husband. She buried her twin sons. She buried one of her older sons. She buried her twin sons, Ronnie and Lonnie. And she buried one of her older sons, Larry. And then she buried her baby boy, my daddy, Mark. She buried 3 grandchildren, her mother, and a great-grandchild. She died in 2020. Us never having the opportunity to get together and remember her and celebrate her life. Grandma Cunningham had many days that she looked up and looked around and wondered, my God, why do I feel alone? My mom's side of the family, they suffer with heart disease. And my dad, my grandpa, just a few years ago, Grandpa Theo, died from complications with his heart. And my grandma Lola, my mom's mom right now, is in condition where she is suffering from Alzheimer's, and she rarely has days of clarity that she knows the people who love her the most. Eli, lama sabachthani, right? Have you ever felt alone? My sister Shekinah, who's not here this morning, for any of you who have met her, she normally sits right here, and she's my biggest fan. She had a beautiful baby boy, and she was wrestling with, what do I do? Do I go back to work? Do I get somebody to do childcare, or do I just become a stay-at-home mom? And there were circumstances that wouldn't allow that to happen, and so she went through extensive pains to find a sweet little old grandma who would watch her baby. She paid more money. She paid more attention to make it happen. And on the very first day back to work, she gets a phone call that her baby boy had died. And come to find out, that sweet little grandma had a little room in the back where she tucked all her babies in a crib and turned up big loud speakers so that she couldn't hear them cry. And that little baby rolled over in his crib and suffocated to death. If that didn't make it bad, she made it worse. She waited 35 minutes before she called 911 to confess and get somebody on the scene. They showed up, revived the baby boy with severe brain trauma, and he lived another year or so and finally died in the night about a year later. And my sister called me, Eli, lama sabachthani. Why do I feel alone? As I stood over his casket, watching a mother grieve. During the past 10 years, Kelly and I have 3 beautiful boys. Sometimes they're not so beautiful. Teenagers are rough, man. They'll do something to you, right? My little brand man's right there. He's our 8-year-old. He's our baby. But during the past 10 or so years, Kelly's had several miscarriages, and one of the toughest ones to ever walk through is we were on vacation and she started to hurt, and we come home for a checkup, and we're sitting in the room and they go to do an ultrasound to find the heartbeat, except she and I both know there's no heartbeat. We watch as the nurse kind of scrambles around to find the words to say and excuse herself and get out of the room, and I grab her hand and she grabs mine. And the life that was once in her growing is now gone. She'd give birth to a child and we'd hold him in our arms. We'd never hear him cry, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Have you ever felt alone? This morning, my sister's at home, but her body is in the clutch of a levopontocerebellar degeneration, and every day is a fight. If you know her, she's one of the happiest people I know. She cries, but it's not out of anger or pity. She longs for God to heal her. But we walk through a road together, and that's Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. It's more like, God, don't let us be alone. I can handle a lot of things. Jesus could handle and went quietly through a lot of things, but when it came to being by himself, he cried out, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. I look around today in this audience, and I'm not by myself. I've spent just a few moments sharing with you some of the pains that are on my family and in my situation, but there's not one of you here that doesn't have pain. You got pain. I've been spending some time with what I'm going to call a great friend of mine, my buddy Jonathan. Him and Heather in the back. I love you, buddy. And this week, as I was getting ready for this message, I thought, man, I got pain, but man, you got pain. So I got the nerve to ask him Monday. It was working out, and I said, man, how do you keep from not being bitter? And I was shocked and kind of challenged by what came out of his mouth, because to me it was obvious. Here's the deal. I had no plans to come back to CrossFit or do anything like that or work out. And Jonathan, he stayed at me and said, hey, why don't you come on Monday? Just come on Monday. And that was about a month ago, and now I go 5 days a week. And he looked at me, he says, how do you know? I don't know that I'm not bitter. Do 2 more reps. Grab that 3 more times and then we'll talk. And we began to discuss what it meant to process. And for those who don't know, our community about 5 years ago was hit with a tragedy. It was unimaginable that 5 young lives would be snuffed out by murder. And one of those was Jonathan and Heather's, their son. Man, little Jonathan. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Jonathan began to look at me and said, man, I don't know that I'm not bitter, because every time there's things, people don't even know they're saying it. They'll say something, and when they do, it takes me right back to him, and I've lost him again, and said, so I don't know, does that make me bitter? Grab that again. Let's do 3 more this time, then we'll add 5s. I'm like, well, what do you do about that? Do you get angry, or how do you? He said, man, and he looks at me, and with tears in his eyes, he says, do you know how much pain I've caused people? This life hurts. It hurts. Then as we continue to work out, he looks at me and he says, I don't know that it's possible to forgive or to move forward or to let anything go if you haven't experienced the forgiveness of Jesus. And then he's like, hey, this isn't me. This is Jesus. My Heather makes me so much better. And this is my mama coming through right here. This is my mama talking. And I'm like, no, it's absolutely Jesus. It's the same prayer. It took me back to when Jonathan didn't know it, but in that moment he was ministering to me, because when you lose your dad at 50, I'm not that far from that. He's gone. I'd be sitting somewhere and someone come to me and say, will you please pray for me? I'm like, what's going on? Well, my daddy's sick and in the hospital. I'm like, well, tell me about it. Well, he's 90 and I'm not ready to lose him. And you know what? Let me just be honest with you. My first thought is, you had him 40 more years than I had mine. But I don't want to be bitter. I want to be better. And how do you know if you're getting better? How do you know if you're being healed? And can I say this morning, I might say something to you accidentally that might make you feel rejection. I could say something to you that might take you by accident to the worst pain in your life. I could accidentally say something that might make you feel more condemnation than you ever felt. But if you look at me and know my heart and know where I'm at, if you're on the process of becoming better and not bitter, then you're going to look at me and you're going to say, God, just forgive him. He don't know what he's doing. Forgive her, Lord. She don't know what she said. God, forgive him. They don't know what they're doing to me when they ask me to pray for their daddy. They don't know. In Ephesians 4, it says this, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry, and do not give the devil a foothold. Here's the reality. When we look at our pain and we look at our circumstances and we know what we've lost, and then we let anger build up and we let sin come in, then we're allowing Satan to have a foothold, and we thereby imprison ourselves. Today you have a choice to make Satan powerless. As long as you focus on your pain, as long as you keep using I. See, here's the deal. God's giving you the power. That's the promise of the Spirit. The power to trade your I in for an E, right? The only difference between bitter and better, I've heard a preacher preach on this, but the difference between bitter and better is one little letter, right? And I want to take it a little further. When you focus on yourself and your pain and how you're hurting, then bitterness can spring up and rob you and make you resent everybody. But the Holy Spirit wants to come and help you to look up and look around and trade the I for an E and realize that everyone in this room, not one of you, will escape pain. That's hopeful, isn't it? So my question to you this morning is, who did you lose? Who are you losing? Was it a friend? Was it the love of your life? Was it a breakup? I had a daddy text me last night, so worried. He said, my son wants to be a combat medic. Did you know someone who went to battle and didn't come back? Do you have a prodigal son or daughter who's convinced to do it the hard way? Was it drugs? Was it prison? Was it another person? Was it death? Was it tragedy? No matter how they left, It all leads to one feeling, and that is, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Why do I feel alone? Here's a few things after talking. Let me tell you, number one, pain is good proof that you're alive. If you don't believe that, just reach over there and pinch the person beside you. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Pain will help you to prioritize your life. Pain also rips away all the mask and demands. I like the word Heather kept sharing with me, authenticity. It gets real, don't it? Pain's a reminder that we are not in control. And your pain, let me make a promise to you, will do one or two things. It'll make you bitter or it will make you better. In Acts chapter 7, verse 59, it says this. It says, while they were stoning him, Stephen appealed, Lord Jesus, receive my spirit. And falling on his knees, he cried out in a loud voice, Lord, do not hold this sin against them. And when he said this, he fell asleep. Imagine being stoned, and while people are hurling stones at you, your prayer having the power of the Spirit rise up in you and looks at your accusers, looks at those who are hurting you, and you pray, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. But it's important this morning that as I read that part of the verse to you, that if you back up just a little bit, the first thing Stephen says while they're stoning him is he looks toward heaven and he says, behold, I see the glory of the Father. Woo! And I see the Son of Man on his right hand. And then he begins to pray the prayer of forgiveness. Here's the reality. Stephen is testifying to them, I am not alone. Here's the truth. No matter how many times I actually felt this way, no matter how many times I actually said, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, right? I was not alone. And you are not alone this morning. You are not by yourself. You are not walking through your pain, your circumstance by yourself. Jesus said he would send the Comforter. In John chapter 15, verse 26, he says this, when the Helper comes, who I shall send to you from the Father, the Spirit of truth who proceeds from the Father, he will testify of me. He will be a witness in you. He will show the world what it's like to love when they should hate. I'm getting ready to close right here. I want to invite Ben and Summer to come up. I think the most important thing for us to remember today, I wished I could tell you. I look at my kids, and as a parent, I want to do everything I can to keep them from hurting. You know, understand? Y'all with me? It's like that's kind of your goal as a parent somehow. I don't know how it gets there, but it's like, man, I don't want to see you. Don't keep jumping off that right there. You're going to hurt yourself, son. Please slow down. Please don't do that because that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt. And then they get older and that gets more complex. And it's like, man, everything in me just wants to keep you from hurting. That's all I want to do, right? But you know, as a parent, you get very, very, it gets real that, hey, I remember little Mark and Caleb were wrestling in the bathroom and little Mark come out crying, talking at the same time, blah, blah, and his tongue just flapping. Almost bit the thing in two. And I mean, I just went, whew, and he's sitting in my lap trying to talk. I'm like, don't talk. I don't want you to swallow your own tongue, okay, please. But I had to go outside and kind of catch my breath, and I was thinking, okay, I'm raising boys. I don't know what it's like to raise girls. I don't know. They may be worse. Some of you might say, oh, my Lord. But what's tough is I got to look at my kids and I got to tell them, this life comes with pain. It's going to hurt sometimes. Sometimes it's going to hurt hard. But I think the important thing is, the real question is, what are we teaching those people who are watching us closely? When you're hurt, are you supposed to respond in anger? I think it's okay to get angry. I would say don't get angry. Man, you might need to go punch a punching bag, right? Son, when pain comes your way, what are you going to do with it? You going to make a choice to get bitter or better? When heartbreak comes, when disappointments, when love is lost, when hope disappears, when you want to cry out and say, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, instead of that, remember the promise of the Father, and that is, I will be with you. The promise Jesus said, I will be with you always, never forsake you, even unto the end. So this morning, I don't know where you're at. I don't know what you're facing. I don't know what you're walking through. Some of you I do. Some of you I understand. Some of you I'm in the trenches with you because we're that close. I understand you got some immense pain going on. So I've asked Ben to get a little song together. And all I'm asking for, and I think it's a reasonable ask, walking the road I've walked, is would you consider letting faith rise in your heart and just simply say, I still trust you, Lord. Still trust. I still believe. So as Ben and Summer worship just for a moment, we'll come back after that and pray just for a minute. Come on, Ben, lead us.
Scattered words and empty thoughts seem to pour from my heart. I've never felt so torn before. Seems I don't know where to start. But it's now that I feel your grace fall, I pray, from every fingertips, washing away my pain. And I still believe in your faithfulness. And I still believe in your truth. And I still believe in your holy word. Even when I don't see, I still believe. Though questions still follow my mind, promises I still seem to bear. Even when answers slowly unwind, it's my heart I see repaired. But it's now that I feel your grace fall like rain, from every fingertip, washing away my pain. Yes, Lord. And I still believe in your truth. And I still believe in your holy word. Even when I don't see, I still believe. Well, the only place I can go is into your arms, where I throw to you my feeble prayers. In your brokenness, I can see that this is your will for me. Help me to know you are near.
Come on, sing this with me, William. Sing this.
And I still believe in your faithfulness. Yes.
That's it. Come on.
And I still believe in your truth. And I still believe in your holy word. Even when I don't see, I still believe.
Amen. I still believe this morning. Father, we thank you today. God, for those who are here with a broken heart, God, for those who have some have processed and walked through it, and they're life givers. Some are faced with real opportunity today, God. Bitterness knocks on their door. God, as bitterness knocks on the heart, begging to be let in. Father, I pray that you give us the strength, God. Thank you for the strength to embrace your word, God, to embrace your truth. It's impossible this morning. It's absolutely impossible to forgive without being forgiven. If you're here this morning and your relationship with Jesus, maybe you wouldn't know what to say if somebody asked you, man, could you forgive that way? Maybe it seems like something's just completely impossible. Would you let him come in and heal your heart today? Simply just say to him, come in, heal my heart. Heal my heart, God. I give you my pain. I want to know what that's like, God. I want to know what it's like. I want to know what it's like when it goes beyond me, that you show up and that I can see it's you. God, it's you that lets us wake up in the morning and know that there's hope. God, it's you. God, that allows us to believe that one more day, for those who are hurting among us, oh God, we pray that we could be the light, that we could be the bridge. Lord, when we leave this place and we are surrounded by people who are hurting and don't know to come to you, we pray for the words. We pray for the insight. We pray for your power to help us be patient, help us to be kind. Jesus, oh. Sing that, I still believe it. I still believe in your faithfulness. I still believe in your truth. I still believe in your holy word. Even when I don't see, I still believe. sing it one more time with me. Will you sing it? Come on. Sing, I still believe. I still believe in your faithfulness. Amen. I still believe in your truth. Oh, 'cause I still believe in your holy word. Even when I don't